So this is an empty truck, but you can see the size of them. Shows how many come in and out every single day. So yeah, what you just saw there essentially is the trucks going onto what's called a weighing platform. So because of the vast number of chickens that go into the slaughterhouses, they're not even given a number. You can't quantify them, so instead they do it by weight. And this is a way of basically getting in there and out there as efficiently as possible, rather than having to handle the chickens individually and count them, as they essentially bring over 1 million chickens here every single week, so it just wouldn't be feasible to sort of count them one by one. So yeah, that's what they do. They put them on these weighing scales, they'll do it by weight, and then they'll transport them inside of the slaughterhouse. So yeah, this is a chicken slaughterhouse. They're basically known as broiler chickens, so chickens that are bred for meat, and they on average are about 42 days old. So chickens that are babies, they're 6 weeks old, and they are sort of genetically bred to grow to the size of a full chicken in just 6 weeks. And that's because obviously they're going to grow big enough to then produce a product that's suitable for like a supermarket shelf or to be served in a restaurant. So yeah, they're brought here and they're sort of taken inside this huge facility. And the way that they kill these chickens at 6 weeks old is they stay in those yellow crates, and they basically would lower them into a CO2 gas chamber. And essentially they'll be lowered down, and the chickens would end up suffocating, burning from the insides, and they will stay there for as long as possible until they are certain that they're all dead and killed. So Joey Carbstrong recently released a sort of expose, and you can find that on his YouTube channel, and it shows graphically what actually happens inside the slaughterhouse. And you can see the chickens obviously starting to feel that pain and suffering, and they try and break free out of the crates. They try and jump out, and because these chambers are really large, they end up just sort of falling onto the concrete, causing more injuries, more pain, until eventually the gas takes over and they're all killed. Then essentially they'll be taken in other sort of fridge transport trucks, and they'll be taken to either other processing plants if they're not processed inside, and basically made suitable and packaged up and put into packaging for sale in supermarkets. All of your big branded supermarkets, Tesco, Asda, Lidl, Sainsbury's, or they'll be taken to sort of your hospitality sector, restaurants, cafes, for any products that have chicken in them essentially. So yeah, I'm here today. It's my first time at a chicken slaughterhouse. I've been to many vigils at cow slaughterhouses and sheep slaughterhouses, sort of go every month, but this is my first time actually going to a slaughterhouse for chickens. So this is a new experience for me. Yeah, kind of curious to see how many come throughout the day. I mean, I've only been here about 10 minutes, and there's already been at least 2 trucks come in with chickens on them, and already maybe 3 or 4 that have come out empty. So it's not even 10 o'clock in the morning, and they clearly have so many that come in. And like I said earlier, there's they take 1 million chickens here every week. And to kind of quantify that onto a truck, you're talking thousands, hundreds of thousands on each truck. You've seen the size of them, and I'll try and show you some footage of when they actually come in again. And yeah, it's kind of crazy, this place, because you're in basically the middle of a residential area. You've got literally houses. I can show you my camera view there. You've got a retail residential area here with housing, and directly opposite you've got where the trucks come in onto the scales, and they will go into the facility, into the slaughterhouse. I can't imagine what it would be like to live around here, to see these trucks coming in every single day. I guess the people would just get used to it, but yeah, it's kind of crazy. And if they don't know, then why don't they know? They probably keep it a secret from people. People don't often question lorries and trucks until you sort of get up close, where you actually see the reality of what's happening. So yeah, please drop any questions. that you might have about this slaughterhouse, about what happens with chickens, whether it's chickens sort of bred for meat, the broiler chickens, or if you have any questions about the egg industry, or any other slaughterhouses that, you know, here in the UK and around the world, whether it be, you know, cows or sheep. So yeah, feel free to pop any questions in the chat. Yeah, thanks, Chris. So yeah, over 1 million a week, if not more. And yeah, so it's all done by weight. And so the chickens will stay into their individual crates, all packed in tightly onto the truck. And yeah, they'll weigh them. Like I said earlier, they don't quantify them by a number, they almost do it by weight. And yeah, so the trucks will come in fully loaded, they'll weigh the truck. They will then send the crates off into the slaughterhouse, and that's where they'll be taken to the gas chamber and killed. And then the trucks will come back out, they'll reweigh it, and they can work out essentially the weight of the chickens and work out, yeah, how many are inside based on that. And yeah, this is I guess what you call a local slaughterhouse. You know, it's not hidden away at all. This one, it's next to a residential area just off of a main road down in Devon. And yeah, it's very, very exposed to the public. So Clyde, your question about far bigger issues in the world, there's multiple issues in the world, but you know, we should all fight for the things that we're passionate about and that we can speak up for. And you know, we're speaking up on behalf of the animals, but it doesn't mean you can't speak up for other injustices in the world. You know, be a voice and stand up for what you believe in and the injustices you believe in. And the fact, you know, 1 million lives are taken here every single week, it cannot, you know, we cannot be quiet about this. This is by far the largest number of deaths that happen, and we can't stay quiet. We have to speak up and expose this issue and try and raise awareness around the country, around the world, and to locals as well, because you know, it doesn't have to be this way. We don't need to slaughter animals at all. You know, you can live long, happy, healthy lives without putting chickens into gas chambers. So yeah, when I arrived, I saw one of the trucks going in, and if you can see here, that is what the crates look like, tightly packed crates, and this is, you know, the chickens inside. And it's just not justifiable. So yeah, please do drop any questions that you have about the chicken industry, what happens to them, the egg industry, or other animal exploitation, what I'm doing here today. Yeah, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Fix the human issues first. Like I said, you can stand up for many injustices, and doesn't mean you can't stand up for both at the same time. You know, being out here and exposing the cruelty to animals that is happening is one thing that you can do, but you know, you can speak up on various platforms and go out and take action like I'm doing today. It's easy to, you know, behind a screen say that, oh, there's other issues, you know, we should focus on them, but until you actually get out and do something, that's where the most power happens, and that's where we want to see change happen. And this industry, you know, the most exploitative industry in the world, the sheer volume of animals across the different industries that are being abused for food, for clothing, for entertainment, for testing, you know, we're struggling to feed 8 billion humans, yet we slaughter 90 billion land animals every year and feed them. If we solve, you know, the issue with animal exploitation, that does also help support, you know, the human causes. Trying to fix the wrong issue first. I mean, if you come and stand here and you see thousands of chickens being, you know, put onto these trucks and gassed to death, what, you know, how is that not a sense of urgency? You know, they're about to meet their death. How can we not try and intervene and speak up for them? We can't just let industries exploit animals just because of human choice and human oppression and human consumption. And if you put if you put yourself into those individual lives, you know, imagine you're a chicken on one of these trucks. They're not just a number, they're not just a weight on a scale, they're an individual. You know, they have the capacity to experience life in their own personalities, in their own interactions. And if you were in that position, I'm pretty sure you'd want someone to try and break you out and set you free, because, you know, you're minutes away from being put into a gas chamber. And I think this is a supermarket truck just going into the facility, most likely a fridge truck that's going to take the packaged or the chickens off to a further processing plant if they've not already been processed already, and work with the distributors for supermarkets. So yeah, this is Audi. I mean, the vegan shit you're referring to, Clyde, I mean, being kind to animals, you don't care about basically being kind to animals, stopping animals from being slaughtered, sliced by the throat, shot in the head, gassed to death. Don't care about that, then how does that speak to compassion about others in the world? You know, we have to take personal accountability and responsibility for our choices. And the fact that this is a choice, you know, this isn't necessary. We don't need to put chickens into gas chambers. We don't need to eat chickens to survive. You can thrive on plants, and this industry doesn't need to exist. 1 million lives every week don't need to be killed. Yeah, so please do ask any other questions about the chicken industry, the egg industry, any other animals, slaughterhouses, any questions you have, anything about being vegan, please pop them in the chat. Sorry, Clyde, I'm not ignoring what you're saying. You know, from what I've seen coming through, you're basically saying about solving human issues first before animals issues, and you know, you can speak up for both. Like I said before, you can advocate for human rights and animal rights at the same time. I'm out here and speaking up for the animals, and you know, exposing the truth of millions of chickens being killed every week, and you know, that's what I've got a passion for and advocate for, and what we need to expose. And the fact for those individuals on those trucks, it's a sense of urgency. if you were that individual on the truck? You know, would you want someone to just say, there's other problems in the world, you go ahead and die? Or would you want someone to speak up for you and try and change the industry? So what's wrong with eggs? So good question. I guess the egg industry is something that probably goes under the radar quite a lot. The egg industry is as exploitative, if not more, as the sort of the meat industry. So egg-laying hens are forced to produce dozen times more eggs than what would be natural in this world. And if they're sort of born a male chick, they're obviously no use to the egg industry, and they're basically the hundreds and thousands of male chicks are put through onto a conveyor belt and put through a macerator, like a big blender, because obviously male chicks are no use to the egg industry. But secondly, obviously, like the idea of, I think you mentioned, like if you have your own chickens or in the backyard, you're viewing animals as commodities and animal products as something that you can benefit from. Why do we have to exploit animals for our own use? We can be in this world, not exploit others, and live happily among animals and not try and take things from them. Just how you wouldn't want anything taken from you just because it's natural. We are omnivores, nature right. I mean, you've struck an interesting point, We can eat plants, so why not just eat plants? Why force animals into gas chambers? Why shoot animals in the head? Why slit their throats? If you were in their position, if you were the victim, would you stand for that? Living proof here. I haven't eaten an animal product in years. Happy, healthy, no deficiencies, and you just eat plants. If you wanted to look more into these industries, there's a couple of really good documentaries that I'd recommend watching. There's The Land of Hope and Glory. That shows you the reality of both the chicken industry and the egg industry. There's Dominion as well. And if you really do care or want to know more, I'd thoroughly suggest watching that. And that's sort of what changed my perception, is understanding what happens to the animals and realizing that it doesn't have to be this way. You don't have to cause harm to animals. Yeah, you can Google if a vegan diet is healthy for you. The largest dietetic associations in the world, the British Dietetic Association, the American Dietetic Association, and it shows that you can live through all forms of life, from infancy to adulthood, through pregnancy, thriving on a plant-based diet, and that has been peer-reviewed, scientifically backed. Also worth looking up, a doctor called Dr. Michael Greger has loads of really good resources if you're curious about anything in particular. Yeah, you can obviously Google about the nutritional side, the fact you can be healthy, and whilst you're there, why not Google videos exposing what happens inside a slaughterhouse. Like I said earlier, Joey Carbstrong released I think it's 1 minute 50 of what happens inside one of these places, what happens inside of a chicken slaughterhouse. And that essentially is where they're put through into gas chambers. You can see them jumping from the cages, landing on the concrete floors. They're burning from the insides, they're suffocating to death, and yeah, they take a million lives each week here, and this is just one location of many throughout the country, throughout the world. So yeah, if you've got Google, you can research nutrition, you can research what happens to the animals. All of your questions or concerns can be answered. Want to eat some wings whilst you watch this stream? Well, you know, the next time the animals come through on a truck, you can see exactly the victims you're eating. You know, this was one that I captured earlier. You can see they're tightly packed into these crates. You can see their eyes. You know, this is an individual that wanted to live. And if you've ever seen chickens, been around chickens, you'll know that they have individual personalities. You know, these should live to a very long age, not 6 weeks old, they're babies. And it's really not that hard. So there's a truck coming through now, so I'll try and show you this. So as you can see how many are on here.
You're on private property here. Excuse me? You're on private property here.
Yeah, okay.
All right. You're trespassing. If you want to give your name and address and all your details to security before you come anywhere near.
Yeah, I've already spoken to security.
Right,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, but he's trespassing now, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if
Right.
security want me to leave, I can.
Please off. That's, you can go
Yeah,
over there.
yeah, that's fine. Yeah. See how defensive they are. They don't want you going any closer. They don't want us looking and exposing the realities. And why is that? They get so angry and so aggressive. Without even asking me to leave, they come straight onto the aggressive. And yeah, this is the size of the trucks. You can see all the individuals packed inside. And all of these, in a matter of minutes after they're weighed on this scale here, will be taken inside the processing plant, the slaughterhouse, and they will stay in their crates and they'll be lowered into CO2 gas chambers, where they'll be forced to burn from the insides and suffocate to death. And this is the reality of what essentially is supply and demand. This is because people are buying products, chicken products. Without people requesting these products, these animals aren't bred into existence and forced to die. You know, hundreds are on here, if not thousands. So they'll now be taken onto the weighing bridge, because unfortunately they don't sort of have the capacity, efficiency to count each individual chicken by number, so they have to put them onto the weighing scales, which are these metal platforms in front, and that's how they'll judge how many chickens are going inside. So they're not even labelled a number, they're part of a collective weight. All of these broiler chickens inside, just 6 weeks old most likely, 42 days old, they're babies. So they're going to reverse up. security already getting very, very angry with me even approaching just this place, but you know, you can see everything from here. All of these individuals, hundreds if not thousands, all packed into these crates. And this is their final journey. Look at the size of the trucks. All these individuals have no idea what fate awaits them. Within minutes, these trucks, or these crates, sort of the pallets containing all the yellow crates inside, are going to be lowered onto CO2 gas chambers. All the individuals inside. They're a someone. They're not an object. They're not a commodity. They want to live just like us. And this all happens because people pay for chicken products. They're killed at babies. How tightly they pack them into these crates. You can see all their feathers being pushed out to the sides. Why would you want to pay for this? You know, most people maybe pay for a product, but they don't really understand the reality of what goes through the process of making that product. You see an item on a shelf. But when you see something like this, you see the individuals, you see their journeys taken whilst they're babies, and then they'll be taken forced inside a gas chamber and burnt to death. And that's the difference, because then you have awareness. You know exactly what's happening to these individuals, like this chicken that I'm sort of focusing on at the moment on camera. This chicken will be gassed to death. This individual who has sort of feelings, personalities, they have family and they have friends just like us. But in moments, this crate will be lowered into aversive CO2 gas and they will be killed. And this is one truck out of many that will come here today. These are the individuals. See all their feces trickling down through all of these crates. They're probably wondering what on earth is just happening to them, being taken and packaged in. And this is it. This is their final journey. Every chicken on this truck is going to be lowered into a gas chamber and killed in a matter of minutes. You've seen their eyes. You've seen what happens to them. How can you justify this? Those people on the security gates that are holding the truck at the moment, they're probably the last set of eyes that those chickens will ever see. The last bit of daylight that they'll ever see. And for the whole miserable 6 weeks, they're probably kept in an inside barn anyway. They've probably never been outside and touched a blade of grass, and they never will. You can see a truck going through now as well, on the other side of the road, and it's full of chickens again, right next to all these houses. How can you imagine living here? Truck after truck. There's literally a queue of trucks going to go in. Hello, you right?
Yeah, I know a couple of the lads have just come over to you, but for your own safety, just avoid going over to the weighbridge.
Yeah.
As if these trucks come in, I don't want you to get hurt or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you for coming over.
If you could just stay away from
Yeah, I won't go onto the
thank
metal
you, my
grid.
friend.
Cheers, thank you. So you can see the trucks now. The one on the right is the truck that's been on the weighing scales, ready to go inside. The truck on the left in the queue, waiting to go in. Hundreds, if not thousands. You know, how many's in just individually into those yellow crates? You know, you say you love chicken. Do you love all of these chickens about to be burnt into CO2 gas chambers? They're 6 weeks old, they're babies. They've never been able to be outside. Taken from their families and killed a most brutal death. How would you feel if you were in their position? So I think this truck's going to come round onto the scales now. So it's just interesting with the different approaches of the security. It's almost like a good cop, bad cop. You know, the people on the trucks and unofficial members just get angry straight away. They're confrontational, tell you you're trespassing, but not even tell you to leave. And then the actual security is, you know, seemingly very friendly and just trying to look out for safety, which, you know, is important. I don't trust the people driving these trucks, and I wouldn't want to stand in front of them. If they're able to you know, force all of these animals into a gas chamber, just makes me question how much compassion they actually have. And then this is the truck coming in now, ready to be weighed. So this is one that's already been inside, and they're obviously weighing the difference between when it first came in, how heavy was the truck. And now all of those chickens that were on that truck have been taken off and lowered into a gas chamber and burnt to death. And now they are essentially just weighing the difference to see how many chickens were taken in. And you can see that, you know, the crates span multiple widths across this truck. You know, there's could be a couple of thousand on each one. This is probably I think the 6th truck I've seen so far this morning, and I've been here about 45 minutes. And here comes a truck. Is this empty or? Yeah, so this is another empty one. But like you saw about 5 minutes ago, these were packed full of individual chickens, and they come onto the weighing scales. And again, just weighing the difference to see how many chickens were taken into the gas chambers and killed. And off they go. They'll now go to another farm, most likely. Could be local. They might travel far, and then they'll go and restock all of those crates full of individuals just to return back here. And the fact they slaughter 1 million chickens a week just shows you how many come here every single day, every hour, and this is just one site. Yeah, apologies for if there was any questions that was put on the chat. Feel free to repost them just whilst I was filming all the trucks coming in. I didn't quite see everything going on. If you have any questions about what's going on here today, about the chicken industry, the egg industry, and whilst we're here, anything about the dairy industry, the meat industry, slaughterhouses, being vegan, please do add any questions you've got. For those of you that have never seen this before, how does it make you feel? This is the first time you've seen chickens going in on a slaughterhouse truck. How does it make you feel? This is what it looks like in case you haven't seen them. This is the close-up of the chickens on the truck, all packed tightly into these yellow crates. You can see they're scared and fearful. They're not sure what's going on. And why would they? They've been taken onto a truck, held at a random place. No. How does that make someone feel seeing the individuals packed onto these crates, about to be dropped into CO2 gas chambers and burnt to death? Does it still make you say, oh, you know, but we need to eat chicken, I love chicken? Or does it make you feel empathy and make you want to make a change? Again, if there's quite a lot of comments on the chat, so please repost any questions that you've got for me, and I'll do my best to answer them. Hey Mel and Steve, yeah, all good so far. Had a couple of trucks come in already. Apologies for the noise behind. Yeah, it's heartbreaking, it's sad to see, and it's just a case of how do people not know about this and why it's so important for being here. It just baffles me that, you know, I'm stood straight across accommodation of, you know, residential areas, people living there and seeing these trucks every day. And if they don't think twice, well, then we really need to expose the individuals inside, because it's just, yeah, it's just unbelievable. And yeah, I'm glad that I'm here, and I feel like, you know, people should be here every single day, wherever they are. You know, go and take a camera to your local slaughterhouse and film them. You know, you don't have to be confrontational. You know, I take more of a peaceful approach. I try and be a bit, yeah, I guess, how would you phrase it? I mean, I don't want to be, you know, kicked out. I'd rather, you know, spend more time with the animals and exposing their stories, and I won't want to put that at risk. As much as, you know, I hate the industry, and, you know, makes you think about the people doing this as a job, you know, the truck drivers, the security. I'm sure they're not doing it because, you know, they want to force a chicken into a gas chamber. And yeah, so today there's various activists all at different slaughterhouse sites around the UK, and they're exposing the reality of all the different sort of industries in animal agriculture. So I'm here at a chicken slaughterhouse, there's people at a cow slaughterhouse for dairy cows, there's people at other chicken slaughterhouses, I think there's people at potentially sheep and pig slaughterhouses as well. So yeah, Mel and, if you know, it's Mel and Steve, they've done a great job at sort of coordinating a national effort for people to go to slaughterhouses and expose them today, and we really want people to do this more often. You know, if you're interested in maybe coming along and seeing what it's like for yourself, you know, feel free to either drop me a message, you know, follow me on social media. I go to Vigils very regularly, so I kind of know how it works, and yeah, it's a powerful, scary, but really important experience that I would recommend to anyone, you know, regardless if you're vegan or not. You know, if you're vegan, it ignites this fire for you to sort of speak up for the animals, and if you're not vegan, well, this may be the changing point in your life, you know, to look at these individuals face to face and say goodbye to them. You know, if you have any sort of empathy and compassion, I'd like to think that it would make you think. So yeah, if you have any questions about coming to a slaughterhouse or what happens, please let me know. Yeah, please drop any questions in the chat. Yeah, so far I've seen about 6 trucks, including this one, come in today. I've seen 3 that were full, 2 up close, and the other 3 have just obviously come out of the facility. So I've been live for 45 minutes, and yeah, that's 6 trucks with thousands on each. And it goes to show, you know, they take 1 million chickens here every single week. So, you know, you're talking 100,000 a day. Apologies if I've missed anything in the chat. Doesn't change the fact that they are dependent now. We can't just drop them, and upkeep them without a profit is impossible. I assume you're referring to the farmed animals, and again, it's this whole industry is built on supply and demand. The reason there's 1 million chickens coming here every week is because people are buying chicken off, you know, supermarket shelves and ordering chicken in supermarkets and restaurants. If people stopped buying these products, they won't be bred into existence, and they won't be taken here and forced into a gas chamber. It's as simple as that. Supply and demand, like any product. And just because you think, oh, you know, they're not going to be profitable, or, you know, can't stop it, it's not a justification to carry on killing animals. What would you do with the farm animals? And again, so it's supply and demand. So as the population reduces the demand, the animals will stop being bred into existence. You know, we kill 90 billion land animals every year. So if we reduce the amount that are being bred into existence purely for food and clothing, then, you know, that's essentially that's how it works. So if you reduce the demand, they won't be bred into existence, and they won't be, slaughtered. And yeah, I'd like to say it's as simple as that. The whole world might not go vegan overnight, but it's everyone that sees this sort of thing and makes the decision to change. And to maybe put it in perspective, you as one individual would probably consume or kill, unintentionally maybe, about 300 animals a year. So by you going plant-based, going vegan, you'd save 300 lives just yourself. And think if more people did that, how much that expands. And I guess if you put it into perspective, what if it was humans that are being bred into existence and slaughtered for meat? That doesn't make it okay. You wouldn't really care about the profit of people working in that industry. You'd care about the individuals in those lives. If it was babies, you can make that comparison. And we can live in a vegan world. You can thrive off plants. You don't need to eat animals. You don't need to wear animals. Looks like there's another truck about to come in, so I'll try and show you the truck that's coming around now. So it's just going up the road, but that is full of chickens at the moment. I assume it's going to turn around at some point. It's getting a bit busy in here as well, so maybe they're on a delay. I know we should stop breeding animals into existence because of demand. Simple as that. We don't want animals to be killed at all. Stop breeding them and they'll stop being killed. Yeah, exactly, and what farmers can do. There's examples of farmers turning farms into sanctuaries and changing their production from animals to crops, plant-based products. You don't have to just kill animals on here now just because, for the sake of it. They can live out their long, happy lives and not just killed when they're a fraction of their lives. These chickens are 6 weeks old. They can live to 10 or 12. Dairy cows are killed, between 3 and 5 years old. They can live till they're about 20 years old. And there's many sanctuaries already doing this. Yeah, I'll try and get that truck when it comes back around. I'm not sure where it's gone, but it was full of chickens. Yeah, if there's any questions you want to put in the chat about what happens to chickens, whether it's, for broiler chickens, the meat chickens, or for the egg-laying hens in the egg industry, or if you've got any other questions about slaughterhouses or the meat industry, dairy industry, about being vegan, please feel free to put them in the chat. Apologies, I've missed quite a lot of the conversation between Chris and I Love Griffin, so thanks for yeah, talking amongst the comments. So interestingly, so if you're not vegan and you're watching this stream, what is stopping you from becoming vegan? Thanks, Jasmine, for the question. What helps you personally realise that chickens deserve the same respect as dogs or cats? So, you know, if you joined the stream earlier, where I did a close-up of some of these chickens, you know, these aren't just a product. They're not just a number or a weight. You look into their eyes and you can see that there's someone inside there. It's not just a thing, an object. They are a someone, and they have the capacity to feel every emotion or similar emotions that we do as humans. They can feel love, they can feel pain. They have friends, they have families. And it would be, you know, hypocritical to say that, you know, you love your dog and your cat, but you couldn't care about chickens, because if you swapped those around, how would you feel if someone put, let's say, their pet dog or their cat onto one of these trucks and taken into a gas chamber and slaughterhouse? How would that make you feel? And it's for that reason that, you know, every animal, every being is someone who has their own experience, and all have one collective value, and that is that they want to live. They want to live their happy lives in peace, without any exploitation, without being used, without being killed at a baby. And you don't even have to love animals. But even if you don't love animals, you can just have the, like you say, the decency to not force them into a gas chamber. We should respect all animals. You know, we're on this planet all together. Animals are not here, you know, for our consumption, for our entertainment. We are all animals. We should all be, you know, in peace and harmony with each other. And these industries are the total opposite, the most exploitative, cruel industries that you could ever imagine. And if anyone else has come from, Mel and Steve's streams, I'd be interested to see what it's or what you've experienced from watching the other streams going on at the moment that they've coordinated. I know there's people in various slaughterhouses around the country today doing what I'm doing, whether it be at a different chicken slaughterhouse, a pig slaughterhouse, a sheep slaughterhouse, or a cow's dairy slaughterhouse where Mel and Steve are today. This might be the first time that you're seeing this type of the video. So yeah, I hope it sort of makes you think, and, you know, encourage any sort of comments in the chat. And there behind me, this again is an empty truck. So this was once full of chickens, thousands of chickens. And what they're doing is they're going onto this platform to weigh them. Because they don't count the chickens individually, they do it by weight. So they weigh the truck as they come in, they take the animals inside, and then they weigh the truck on the way out when it's empty, and they work out the difference. And that just sort of shows you, how many chickens that they're taking in at a time. And in each of those sort of individual yellow pallets, which you can see here, this is just a stationary truck at the moment with no one in. Essentially this is the pallets that are then taken in those crates and forced down to a gas chambered tunnel. And they're burnt from the insides, they suffocate, you know, they burn their eyes, their lungs. And thank you for the comments. Still not sure where that truck full of chickens went. Yeah, so these chickens are 42 days old, 6 weeks old, most likely, sometimes a little bit older, sometimes a little bit younger. But yeah, billions a year, and 1 million just at this one facility. And to think there's multiple of these around the country and all around Europe of this same brand. Exploitation is happening all around you. This isn't, oh, this is something happening away from me. This is happening in your own neighborhood. And like you can see here, we're all surrounded by houses. This is a slaughterhouse in the middle of a neighborhood, which is absolutely crazy. Yeah. And if you didn't see the stream earlier, it was really interesting how security are approaching an activist being here. How did you react? How did they react to you being there? I missed the first part of the stream. So yeah, security were very interesting. The non-official security workers, people that are either the drivers getting off the trucks or the people sort of just lurking around with the high vis, came over very confrontationally, very aggressively, almost trying to push me straight off the site without even asking me to take a step to the side. You think that'll be the first thing is, ask politely, and instead you sort of met with aggression. But the official security guy here was, very peaceful, very friendly, all things considered. I'm happy to adhere to, what they've got to say. I'm not here to cause, as much as I'd like to, cause any, obstructions and problems. So yeah, it's really interesting how triggered the drivers get. They don't want a camera in their face, and neither do security. And it sort of begs the question, why don't they want a camera in their face? Or at least on the truck, not even of them. They're so, this is an industry as the whole, they're so protective and trying to keep everything hidden because, people like us, what we're doing today is exposing what happens on these trucks. And as the more people that expose, the more people we reach, and the more sort of hearts and minds that may change from seeing this sort of thing, from seeing each individual chicken that's on these trucks is, it's kind of transformative in that you can really empathize with those animals. And yeah, if you haven't been to a site like this before, if you haven't been to a slaughterhouse, what's stopping you from maybe coming and having a look for yourself? Is there anything you're worried about, anything you're concerned about? I've been to, multiple slaughterhouses. I'm there quite a lot of the time, usually dairy slaughterhouses and sheep slaughterhouses. First time at a chicken slaughterhouse today. But yeah, I'd be curious to know if there's anything stopping you from coming and taking a look for yourself. Thank you, Jeremy. Are you vegan yourself, Jeremy, out of interest? And thanks for the supportive comments, Jasmine, as well. So here, again, another empty truck. Just shows the volume of trucks that are coming in all the time. So again, yeah, this is an empty truck, once full of chickens, and they basically go onto this platform. They're weighed by weight, and they're not considered numbers. And yeah, this is how they would work out how many chickens go in. And they basically take the difference between the weight in versus the weight out when they're empty, and off it goes. Essentially, an empty graveyard, same as this one. All those chickens were there half an hour ago perhaps, and now they're empty. Especially when there's no trucks here, it's an eerie silence. And you just know that, you know, half an hour or so ago when the trucks were coming in with the animals, that they're inside the big facility plant site for what they would call processing, but they're, yeah, forced into those gas chambers and eventually packaged up and sold to supermarkets and restaurants. And I've seen quite a few of the supermarket trucks come in today, Aldi being one of them. And looks like the other truck is finally coming back now with the animals in, so I'll try and show you. So this is it. This is all these individuals. Look into their eyes. Now, if no one's seen this sort of thing before, please feel free to share any of this live. They can always watch it back. These are the individuals. I can see security are keeping a very beady eye on my exact movements, which is quite funny. These are the victims. Sorry, my hands are a bit shaky. Doesn't help when you zoomed in. As soon as I take a step off this pavement, I know they'll be right over. Yeah, just look at these individuals, look at their eyes. I really hope this stream is of good quality and it's not too laggy, and hope you can sort of see the picture that's being shown here. This is the last time these individuals will see the outside world through these crates. They've finished weighing them, and this is their final journey. They'll be taken inside over that bridge. Really can't believe how busy it's been here today. So yeah, that was one of many trucks that have been in today, all packed very tightly together, and yeah, it's thousands already, and I've only been live for just over an hour. and that's been thousands of chickens going inside and forced into those gas chambers where they will, you know, in a few minutes be essentially burnt to death. Their eyes will burn, their lungs will burn, and they will suffocate. And it's just so disturbing when, let me see if I can show you. You've just seen the truck obviously go in with the many chickens on. We've got a different vehicle coming through now, gas company by the looks of it. But the disturbing thing is over there in the distance, you've got queues of these supermarket trucks that are just ready and waiting to take all of these chickens either to further processing or taken directly to supermarkets, warehouses, ultimately to end up on a shelf for consumers to buy. And it's all supply and demand. This is all happening because people are paying for animal products. It's starting to rain. Hopefully my phone doesn't get damaged. Move it a bit under this tree. This is just one of their suppliers, obviously, that supplies the gas facilities. I can go back to some of the comments on the chat now. Vegan for 7 years now after watching Earthlings. That's awesome. Yeah, Earthlings was the first documentary I watched as well. Oh, I think there's another truck coming in. So I will try and show you. Yeah, it's full. What was that? A couple of minutes before the next one arrived? These are just babies. Less than 6 weeks old. I'm just going to try and take a couple of photos if this stream pauses. Just look at them piled in the stream now. So these individuals, there is someone. Look at them all. They all want to live. Probably going to get told off for being too close, so yeah. Remember those images. This one. How can people think this is okay? I'm sorry. Sorry. Just look at how big this is. Thousands on here. Is it not the white line?
No, it's because it's too close. Where he's going to turn, it's going to affect on the side. So if you could just.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the white line.
Like I
Apologies.
say, my friend, I just don't want you to.
Yeah,
if
yeah,
that makes
appreciate
sense.
that. All right. Yeah,
All right?
apologies. Yeah.
So if you could just stay away from
Yeah,
Thank you.
we'll do. Yeah, I knew you'd come over, but still. They wouldn't want anyone getting hurt here, would they? And off they go. Just yeah, agreed, Jeremy. That must be it. Almost threw myself on the back of that one. And another one here as well. Jeez. It's been like the fourth one in about 5 minutes. Interesting, that's gone straight in though, not going on the platform. It's a bit interesting. Obviously not liking people with cameras here, and they might be trying to get them in quicker than their usual protocol. The rain is getting a bit harder now. Doesn't look it, but it is. Just don't want any equipment to get damaged. Just adjusting. Cool. Move this round here. Cool. I mean, annoyingly, these trees don't provide much coverage, but let's hope all the equipment manages to stay intact. How are we doing for battery? Probably got about an hour left before my phone dies, unless I disconnect my mic, but anyway. Yeah, that's it's a funny quote, I guess, isn't it? I think it was Steve, I think, first, Steve Mel and Steve that first said that at a Vigil, security getting really aggravated, heated, trying to pretend they're there for health and safety, make sure everyone's back from the trucks, health and safety, stay safe. Yeah, you wouldn't want anyone getting hurt being taken into a slaughterhouse, would you? It's the disconnect is crazy, isn't it? Millions of chickens being taken here and forced into a gas chamber, which they clearly don't care about, and they're more focused on someone standing on a pavement. Just locals, like we're literally, a few meters from the site, and there's locals parking here, going into their cars. There's probably kids living there. There's big, children's trampolines, like being opposite a slaughterhouse. How is someone being brought up in this situation? They think this is normal. They think it's absolutely fine. But to be honest, they probably have no idea what actually happens. They see them as some sort of industrial site with trucks going in, and little do they know there's individual animals on those trucks dying the most brutal deaths, being burnt from the insides. It's just crazy. All of these locals should be aware, and they should be taking action if they're not already to get this place shut down. Places like this just shouldn't exist. yeah, if you have any questions or any sort of concerns that about, I guess, about any of these places, slaughterhouses or the industry, then please do drop them in the chat. And yeah, it's starting to rain now. I'm under a very sparse tree. It isn't providing much coverage. I'm just hoping equipment stays dry. But yeah, not too bad. But I mean, it's pretty miserable, just like this place, to be fair. Dark, grey and rainy. It's kind of a fitting scene for animals that are about to meet their death. But yeah, the security obviously, potentially taking advantage of the fact that, I'm here on my own. There's multiple of them. They'll obviously try and outnumber me if I'm even doing something that is legal, which is, going on public property, which sometimes can be claimed to be private property. Yeah, they're obviously going to use force and get very, very aggravated about someone being here. And that just shows the power of someone holding a camera. If one camera is just pointing into a truck causing this much chaos for the workers, it must really hit a nerve. They really want to protect this industry. And it begs the questions, why? Why do the security care so much about the place that's brutally killing animals every single hour, every single day? There's other jobs out there, I'm sure. You don't have to be a part of the system, and if these industries didn't exist, if this was a different production facility, but yeah, I feel like I've lost count of how many trucks have actually gone in today. I'll have to look back at the stream, but just countless. They've just been here, an hour and a half tops. Thousands and thousands of chickens that have gone inside. And yeah, and thank you to Mel and Steve for being at the slaughterhouse you're at today, bearing witness to, I believe, dairy cows going into a slaughterhouse. So the dairy cows going in there will be between maybe 3 and 5 years old. They're what's known as spent in the industry, which basically means they've been forcibly impregnated cycle after cycle to give birth, have their babies taken away from them, and they're essentially no longer profitable and will be slaughtered for cheap meat, most likely used in things like burgers at McDonald's. So yeah, this is an unlabeled truck that's just coming in. This could be a refrigeration truck. So once the animals have been sort of processed inside, this is where they'll often be transported to warehouses and further processing and packaging. And yeah, often they don't label exactly what they do on the trucks because, if you were to put a big sign saying this is a fridge for dead body parts, I think people would have something to say about it, which goes to show how cruel the industry is. Someone walking past, just walking their dog meters away from a gas chamber. I wonder how that person would feel if it was their dog being put in that situation. Right, hopefully oh, apologies, just adjusting the camera. Hopefully that's better now. But yeah, I was saying there's a dog walker just going past meters from the slaughterhouse. If people were to put their pets, their companion animals, in the situation that these chickens are going in today on these trucks, how would they feel? How would they feel that their animals that they know and love, that they know have feelings, emotions, experience pain and joy, and being forced to death? I wonder how they would feel and what they would have to say about it. And it just goes to show this disconnect and this hypocrisy, of a person sitting down for dinner in the evening, feeding their dog, whilst on their plate they have an animal's body chopped up and potentially feeding other chopped up animals to their dog as well. Why do we love one animal and not the other? And it's, you know, the industry that are part to blame for this. You know, we're brought up to, in this country anyway, you know, we love dogs and cats, but eat pigs and chickens. And, you know, from a young age, it's instilled into us, and we have to challenge that mentality, because all animals have the capacity to feel, you know, all the emotions, and, you know, we shouldn't be speciesist and favour one over the other. We should just not exploit any of them. We should look after them, take care of them, but ultimately just leave them in peace. Just cohabit on this world and, you know, be together. We don't need to force them into gas chambers. We don't need to electrocute them. Rain's getting a bit harder now. Yeah, if anyone's watching, have you ever been to a slaughterhouse before? And if not, would you be interested in coming along to one? There's slaughterhouses all around the country, you know, north, east, south, west, wherever you're based, there will be a slaughterhouse nearby, all for different types of animals. You know, there could be pig slaughterhouses, cow slaughterhouses, sheep, chickens like I'm at today. So if you've never been to one, I would highly encourage it, and please, yeah, drop me a message on social media, comment in the chat, and I'd be happy to explain more about it. It's like, so there's an identical fridge truck just on the other side of the road, just like this one. And they're obviously waiting for those chickens that have already gone in the last hour or so. Once they're essentially killed, gassed to death, they'll be put into, I guess, different transportation pallets, and they'll be stored in the refrigeration trucks, taken to other warehouses for further processing. Another vehicle coming in. Obviously they get lots of deliveries coming in. You know, the strangest delivery I think I've ever seen at a slaughterhouse was a company that was based on knife sharpening. So it was a van that came in to sharpen all the knives and the equipment to make sure they're sharp enough to kill the animals. That's one of many different types of trucks and vans that will turn up, or they're sort of more common delivery trucks delivering post and maybe something for the admin side, or you know, in the offices, because these facilities are so big. You have processing from almost usually from, you know, left to right, right to left. The animals go in and they get forced through the process, put into here especially, they'll be put into the gas chambers, and then they'll be further processed, ready to be packaged up and taken to the supermarkets, restaurants or others in the hospitality sector. But they also have offices here, so you have sort of admin staff, you'll have managers, you'll have accountants, you'll have any other sort of standard office job that you could probably think of, people on reception, people on security. So yeah, lots of different people coming on site, and yeah, lots of different deliveries. And this place especially is just a really strange sort of location. I mean, the other sites that I'm used to going is very hidden and out the way, you know, very rural. You wouldn't stumble across it. You'd have to specifically go there to know what that place was. Whereas here, slap bang right in the middle of a neighborhood. You know, behind there's a house. You can see all the houses in the background, which if I just turn my camera around, you'll be able to see. You know, this is the neighborhood. You know, trampolines in the garden, houses, and then just to the other side of there, is the slaughterhouse. And all the public, you know, loads have been walking up and down these roads. And they live there. They can see the slaughterhouse through their bedroom window, kitchen window, whatever it might be. I think that is just totally crazy that this is normal. And again, just showing you a close-up of the weighing station for those that missed earlier. So this is what the trucks have to come on in order to weigh the chickens. So as I said, they don't do it by number, they do it by weight. So they pull up on here, they will take the measurements whilst the animals are on the truck. And then they will go inside, they'll essentially kill the chickens, put them into gas chambers, and then the trucks will come back out and re-weigh themselves onto this scaling platform. And they will then work out, just by weight, the volume of chickens that have been killed, because individual handling of the chickens is not feasible, it's not efficient. Yeah, they do it by weight. So whereas a lot of animals, you know, they have a number, and they're often referred to as a number instead of a person or a name. This goes one step further, and they're not even a number. They're a weight. They're a collective weight. They're not seen as individuals. That's probably one of the most disturbing things. But yeah, if there was any other questions further up in the chat that I might have missed, feel free to repost, and I'll be happy to answer them. And yeah, for anyone else who's maybe more recently joined, so I'm at a chicken slaughterhouse in Devon, what's I guess known as a local slaughterhouse that's situated right in the middle of a neighbourhood. You can see the houses in the background, and this is a facility that takes 1 million chickens every single week to slaughter. And coming around now, I can show you exactly that. So there's a truck coming in, and I'll show you the victims. As I said, this is the weighing platform that they'll rock up to. And this is it. All these individuals packed tightly onto these crates. Just the sheer size of these trucks. These are all individuals. And in a matter of minutes, these will all be sent to slaughter, sent into CO2 gas chambers. They will burn from the insides out. Their lungs will burn, their eyes will burn. They will suffocate, the most painful death. And if they try and break free or fall out of the crates, they'll be met with concrete and suffocation. And this is the reality. It doesn't have to be this way. This all happens because people buy chicken products and eggs. These poor chickens. Some of them are getting really nervous. Just dread to think what must be going through their heads right now. They're packed tightly onto crates, transported around on a truck, and taken to a site where they can probably sense that other animals have been here, whether it's by sense, by smell. This is the reality. So these chickens are most likely about 42 days old on average. Just 6 weeks old. And now they're going to be put into a gas chamber and killed, all for the sake of a sandwich. Surely their lives are worth more than that. You know, security don't even bat an eyelid. It's become so normal. And that's them now going through into the processing factory, the site. So yeah, yet another truck of hundreds, if not thousands, on those trucks themselves. I think that's probably about the 10th truck I've seen so far. Maybe the 7th or 8th that have been full of chickens. It's kind of crazy the fact you lose count of how many trucks that have been in. And in the space of, we've been live for an hour and a half, and I've already lost count of how many trucks have gone inside. It just shows the sheer volume of this place. You know, when I heard that this place takes 1 million chickens a week, you know, you'd expect it to be fairly busy, but I didn't really expect it to be this severe. You know, Friday morning, to know that this happens all day, every day of the week, you know, most likely even longer hours than your standard 9 till 5. They probably take trucks in super early, super late, and at weekends. But you can all support this cause, I guess. You can all do something. You know, if you're vegan already, that's such a huge step. And the next, if you're not already, is speaking up for these animals, whether it be on social media, whether it be in person, coming to a slaughterhouse like this today, speaking to people on the streets. You know, there's something for everyone. You can all speak up and use your voice. Are they all female chickens on the trucks, do you know? So these are both likely male and female chickens. So they're broiler chickens, so they're bred for the meat industry. So they can be essentially both gendered. Whereas the egg industry, the hens that are laying the eggs will be taken into crates and pallets as well. But these are most likely, or most commonly, broiler chickens, so they will be males and females packed in together, all bred for genetically modified bred to grow as quickly as possible in a short space of time. So, you know, these chickens could live 10 to 12 years perhaps, and instead they're taken here at about an average 6 weeks old, so 42 days old. And yeah, they're grown to such a size as a baby, which if you go back, you know, years ago, these chickens would never get to this size in their whole lifespan. But they're now selectively bred to grow into these huge sizes. Getting attacked by a wasp. Yeah, so most likely the broiler chickens, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do take the egg-laying hens here as well, which is obviously one of the same exploitative industries, the egg industry. You know, egg-laying hens are essentially bred to produce dozens of times more eggs than they would a year. I always trying to liken it to, imagine a human giving birth to 100 children every year. You know, it's not natural, and I can't imagine the pain that those chickens would have to go through in those cycles. And like in the dairy industry, once they're no longer profitable, once they no longer can produce the same amount of babies or eggs that make them profitable, they're sent on the same slaughterhouse trucks and sent into the same CO2 gas chambers. And the egg industry is a driver of that. So even if you're vegetarian and you think that eating eggs is absolutely fine, well, hate to break it to you, but yeah, it's the same, if not worse, because, you know, you're breeding these chickens to have awful lives over their cycles, They're just, if you've ever seen footage of egg-laying hens in a barn, for example, they are totally destroyed. And then the eggs that are hatched, if they're females, they'll go through that same reproductive cycle of forcing eggs out until they're spent and sent to slaughter. And if those eggs hatch and they're male, they are sent to slaughter usually within 1 day, the same day of them hatching or the day after. They're put through what's known as a macerator, which is a long conveyor belt, and the baby chicks are put straight through this macerator like a blender, and they're killed because baby chicks in the egg industry don't lay eggs, so they're not profitable, they're not usable for the industry, so they're seen as worthless. Individual lives are seen as total nothing, and they kill them, within a day old. So yeah, regardless of if they're chickens that are being bred for meat, or regardless if they're being, exploited for eggs, they will be taken to the same slaughterhouse places on the same slaughterhouse trucks, put into the same CO2 gas chambers, and they all suffocate the same. So whether you eat chicken or whether you eat eggs, this is what you're paying for. You're paying for them to be lowered into gas chambers. They burn from the insides out. Their eyes will burn, their lungs will burn, and ultimately they suffocate. And they have to keep them inside the gas chambers until they are certain that all the animals, in theory, are dead. Some chickens obviously suffocate for a lot longer. They be really fighting for their lives, and they will just be forced to endure the most brutal pain until they're killed, or they break free of the crates and they fall quite a steep distance to the concrete floor. So they're all, brutally slaughtered for the sake of a sandwich. And that's why we're here, across different sites today, trying to raise awareness for these animals, and showing that you can make compassionate choices instead of paying for these industries, and trying to get people to make the connections that if you buy chicken or eggs or any other animal products, you're supporting these industries. You're supporting the slaughterhouses that are forcing animals millions a week into gas chambers. They're having their throats slit, they're shot in the head, or they're electrocuted, all for the sake of food or clothing. And it doesn't have to be that way. You can live vegan, you can eat plants, and you don't have to contribute to these industries. And it's as simple as that. You don't have to eat animals to thrive and survive. So if you don't have to, then it becomes a choice. And if it's a choice to cause the exploitation and commodify animals as products and send them to slaughter whilst they're babies, all animals that people eat are babies. Chickens are 42 days old, 6 weeks. Lambs or sheep are about 4 to 6 months old. And the same with, cows, pigs, they're a fraction of their age, and they get forced into gas chambers and slice their throats. There's no way, as well as a nice way for someone to die. The idea of humane slaughter I often hear. It's an impossible situation. The word humane is compassion, and how can you compassionately kill someone? It's a contradiction, and it cannot happen. And if you put yourself in their position, how would you want someone to humanely kill you? And I guess the answer would be you can't, because you want to live, and so do the animals. So if you have any questions about the animal agriculture industry, about being vegan, please do pop them in the chat. Hopefully my audio quality is okay as well. But yeah, thank you all for supporting the stream, and as I said, there's multiple going on today. If you go to Mel and Steve's channel, you'll see that there's actually different activists at different slaughterhouses all around the country right now doing a live similar similar to what I'm doing, whether it's at a different chicken slaughterhouse, a dairy slaughterhouse for cows, sheep or pigs. It's all happening today. And yeah, credit to Mel and Steve for organising this. And yeah, you don't need to wait for someone to turn up to your local slaughterhouse. You can go on your own. You can go with friends, or you can go as a group. You can go with an organisation. Just going to put a coat on. It's getting a lot wetter now. Maybe not. Nope, I don't have a coat. Okay. Just moving locations. Just trying to get out of the rain as much as possible. Hopefully that's okay. So yeah, if you've got any questions, please pop them in the chat and I'll take a look in a second. Cool. So what are your favourite meat alternatives for those wanting to try veganism? Any recommendations? Yeah, good question. So yeah, I guess for anyone wanting to try and be vegan, I'd recommend purchasing products that might be familiar to you, making the least possible barriers to making that transition. So, you can have all the same meals that you have today, and you can swap out the animal products for plant-based products. So let's say you're going to have a spaghetti bolognese, and you would use normally a meat version of mince. You go into any supermarket these days, in the fridge aisle or in the frozen aisle, you just have to look to the left or look to your right, and you pick up the vegan version, the plant-based version, mince that are made from plants, usually soy or something like that. And you create the same dish and just swap out the animal products. Same with, obviously we're here at a chicken slaughterhouse today. There's many brands out there that you can buy vegan chicken. So you get the same taste, the same flavour, you can have all the same meals, but you're not paying for animals to be put into gas chambers. So, brands like this, or Thisism, whatever it's called, the black and white packaging, Meatless Farm, Vivera, and also the supermarket's own brands these days have all of their own versions. Even Lidl, they've got a really affordable meat-free range of chicken alternatives. So there's so many out there in every supermarket that nowadays there is no excuse. And if you're trying to be potentially more healthy, then swap maybe chicken or other animal products with beans and legumes and other plant-based proteins like tofu, tempeh, seitan. So if you're worried about health or the idea of processed foods and maybe about cost, well, plant-based products, sort of whole food plant-based products are cheaper and healthier for you. You get the same amount of protein from tofu and seitan than you would from animal products. So there really is no excuses. Yeah, the rain is really coming down more now. Doesn't really show it, but hey ho. The most broken umbrella, but it will do. It will do. Okay. Oh God. There we go. Hopefully that keeps everything all still working and protected. yeah, the rain is getting harder, even if you can't really see it on the camera. But yeah. So yeah, any questions, any other sort of questions about being vegan, anything about the animal agriculture industry, anything about activism? You know, I do a variety of different activism for speaking up for various exploitative industries, whether it's food, entertainment. Yeah, if anyone wants to get started with activism and speaking up for these animals, yeah, please drop a comment in. And if it's one thing I've learnt today, is that I need to buy a new umbrella. And yeah, if you do see other, you know, social media videos or live streams that are of people doing the same, you know, please do go and support them. Drop comments on there, share it, like it, whatever you can do amplifies the message that we're all doing today and on other days, because ultimately the goal is to get as many people to see the realities, to see the animals going into these facilities, because by exposing that and raising the awareness, people will start to change, because information is so crucial in this movement. As people become aware, that's what makes the change. Because people feel empathy. There's a truck coming in. So there's a truck just coming in now, but this is another example of one of the empty trucks. So most likely one of the ones we saw maybe about 20 minutes, half an hour ago. All of those chickens that were here are now gone. And I'm not sure if you can hear that ringing. But basically they're weighing the truck, and obviously they didn't weigh this one correctly, so they're sending it back. And they're weighing the trucks to understand the volume of chickens that are going in. So they will weigh them before they go in with the animals inside first, and then they'll weigh them again once these are empty, which is what's happening right now. And that's how they judge how many animals go in each time. Just see them as just empty graveyards now. That's just what once had thousands of chickens on are now totally empty. And now you've seen these sort of trucks, you know, you start to notice them more when you're out and about. If you're driving down a motorway and you see crates or trucks with, you know, bars in, often if you take a little look closer, you'll actually see that there's animals inside. You'll see crates like that where you see the feathers being pressed against the sides or their beaks poking through, or you'll see potentially the smaller grey trucks where cows might poke their heads through the slats or over the top. And same with pigs as well. You start to sort of notice all the different slaughterhouse trucks that are around. Right. So I'm just going to change up the audio because my phone battery is dying. Hopefully you can still hear me. still here. Hopefully you can still hear me okay. There will be a change in audio now. But yeah, I've got to plug my power bank in to keep the stream going. Yeah, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. I'm absolutely starving, so I'm just gonna have a banana and put myself on mute. But yeah, if you have any questions, please do put them in the chat. Alright, just starting a poll as well. Be curious. Oh, actually, I think there's a truck coming. So, end that. Just show you what's happening. So here is the truck coming through now. Going through onto those weighing scales, as I mentioned earlier. And once again, packed tightly full of chickens, all of these individuals. And this one is not hanging around at all. They want to get them in as quickly as possible. They hate having a camera on them. But you saw how many were packed tightly on there, hundreds if not thousands. And now they're going through into the slaughterhouse. And they'll be sent basically into a CO2 gas chamber. Those chickens are 42 days old on average. They're babies, you know, a few weeks old at most. And it all happens because people are paying for animal products, because people are buying chicken products in supermarkets, in cafes and restaurants, whatever it might be. It's all happening because of the demand of the public. So I'm going to stick the poll back on the chat now. Curious to see if there is anyone here that isn't vegan. You know, you could be honest. Yeah, they're weighing another truck essentially. So they're measuring once again how many chickens would have gone inside the facility. So comparing the weight from when they first arrived with all the chickens in. comparing, yeah, from when all the chickens first went in to when they come back out, and seeing how many gone in. And yeah, we're already in double digits of how many trucks have gone in today. I've honestly lost count, and I've only been doing this for just under 2 hours, and this happens all day, every day. And many people don't know that this is what happens. Yeah, this place takes a million chickens every week, and they're forced to endure a painful death, and they're slaughtered via CO2 gas chambers. So those yellow crates are lowered down into a chamber, and they're forced to endure an aversive gas which burns their eyes, their lungs, and causes them to suffocate until essentially they die. And if they are trying to break free, which they often do, it's just shown in Joey Carbstrong's recent expose, which you can find on YouTube. It's a 1.5-minute clip. It shows the chickens actually trying to break free out of those crates in the gas chamber whilst suffocating and burning, and they slip out the sides, and because these gas chambers are so deep, they end up falling and either injuring themselves worse or killing themselves by landing on concrete floors. So, you know, these chickens are forced to endure the most brutal pain of, you know, suffocation, burning of gas, and often broken bones. And then, I guess most importantly though, their lives are taken from them whilst they're 6 weeks old. And they don't need to. We don't need to pay for animals to be slaughtered. And that's why myself and many others are vegan. Because you can live long, happy lives without exploiting innocent animals. Regardless of, you know, the different types of industries, you can withdraw any form of oppression and exploitation against them. You don't need to view animals as products. There's another truck coming around. Yet another empty truck which has already been inside, and this was once full of innocent chickens. Just shows the volume of how many trucks have gone inside. It's just non-stop. It's like a conveyor belt of trucks with thousands of chickens on. 1 million a week, you know, if not more. And this is one slaughterhouse in one part of the country. This is happening all around the world, every single day, all because of people's choices that they make. And we have to raise the awareness to the public. We have to speak up and use any means possible. That's why I'm here today, using the power of social media, YouTube, and everyone that's, you know, scrolling on the various platforms. You know, you can stumble across a live video and you might be able to catch, you know, what's going on. And the idea, we've got multiple activists doing this today. We hope to reach, you know, a large number of people on different platforms, whether it be YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. We can use our platforms to produce social media videos, posts, messaging, and live streaming, all to reach large audiences. Vegan for the animals since the first week of June 2020, so awesome. So yeah, I went vegan at the very start of 2021. So I showed you the Aldi truck earlier that came in. This is another supermarket that's well known, I'm sure. They all pay for this. So M&S is another supplier. So those chickens that were just here on these exact same scales, the exact same weighing platform, are soon going to be on the shelves of your local M&S store. You know, and people always try and maybe blame or say that, you know, these animals are not for my local supermarket, or, you know, they're not slaughtered near me. No, this is a local slaughterhouse providing products to local areas, M&S, Aldi, and most likely the long chain of others, including Tesco, Asda, Sainsbury's, Lidl, Morrison's. You know, they can't hide this. They can't hide the different types of supermarkets that turn up with these refrigeration trucks. And this is where the animals will be taken from. Those individuals who you just saw packed in those yellow crates are now being processed after they've been slaughtered in a CO2 gas chamber. They'll be chopped up and put into refrigeration crates and transported in a refrigeration truck, going to supermarkets, including this one, M&S, using the same platform, stood in the same position where all the chickens were a matter of minutes ago. And even this advertising, you know, whether these are chocolates, desserts. I'm not at a dairy slaughterhouse today, but these are products of animal exploitation and slaughter. If you're paying for chocolates and desserts with dairy in, dairy cows are forced to endure miserable lives where they're forcibly impregnated cycle after cycle, and eventually they are sent to slaughter at about 4 years old when they're no longer profitable. Their babies are taken from them so the milk can be used from the mothers intended for their child, and instead the milk is used into products and desserts like you're seeing on here, when we can just have vegan versions. So yeah, we know 100% that this chicken slaughterhouses supplies Aldi and M&S, but most likely all the other main retailers, because, you know, this site is a very large one, 1 million chickens a week. You know, they'll be producing or taking chickens to, yeah, all the other major retailers. Just going to put a poll up, so feel free to vote on it. My phone's charging. Yeah, feel free to put anything else in the comments. So yeah, this has been an interesting morning. This is my first time at a chicken slaughterhouse. I've been to other slaughterhouses around, primarily cows and sheep, but this is my first experience today at a slaughterhouse for chickens. And what's shocked me is the sheer volume of trucks going inside. The confrontations from staff and the innocent animals that are on those trucks. You know, they're packed so tightly in, and some of them fearful, some of them have no idea what's about to happen. See another empty truck about to arrive to the weighing platform. So yeah, this is again an empty truck. Making sure they're taking the measurements of the scales as they go out. And there goes another graveyard. Yeah, how many trucks do you think have come through since you've been filming? Yeah, I've lost count, to be honest. Double digits for sure. I've seen a lot coming out, so the ones that have most likely arrived earlier before I arrived and went into the production facility. So yeah, I would say, you know, over a dozen at least within a couple of hours, and knowing there's hundreds if not thousands on each truck, you know, we're talking thousands of chickens that have come in the last 2 hours just whilst I've been live streaming, and it's just non-stop. It's like a conveyor belt. More vans coming in. Yeah, this live stream will be published to YouTube after I finish filming, as long as the settings work. So you can look back through the footage from today, and yeah, you can rewind to certain moments of the trucks coming in. Struggling to turn the camera around. Bear with. There we go. YouTube lagging for a second there. Cool. Cool. Sorry about that, YouTube just crashed. Not sure about that, YouTube just crashed. Not sure what happened. So more trucks leaving the facility. It's the gas company again. All the different suppliers, all the different businesses that make up this industry. So I think I'll call it there for the day, and I'll jump back with Mel and Steve now, but this will be published for everyone to see, and thank you all for joining.